All right, so this is the second box of your project. And for this project, you are writing function notation. So function notation is this right here. This, I read this f of x. This is not f times x. This is indicating a function. And really, because it's an f, it's like math code for function. We can use other letters, but f is the most common that we use. G is the second most, and then there's some other secondary nearby that people would know if you used it and use those parentheses like that you're talking about a function. So in this function, my function here, I take my inputs. First, I add 3 since it's inside the parentheses. Then I square the result to get here. So now I have my function in my function notation, and now I have all the values that I'm going to plug in. So I'm going to plug in first, I'm going to substitute in -2 for x. So I -2, my machine adds 3, which is 1, and then I square that 1, which my output is 1. Next, my input is going to be -1. I substitute -1 in for x. I add, which is 2. Then I square, which is 4. For 0, add 3, which is 3. Square it, which is 9. Put in the 1, add 3, which is 4. Square it is 16. For this next one, I plug in 2, I add it, which is 5. Square it, which is 25. And let's look at one other example that I'm doing on my forms. To write the function notation in my form, I am actually going to insert an equation. So if I go here, I'm going to go down to insert equation. When I do this, it now has this funny little box. I'm going to write f parentheses x, and I read that f of x, and I'm going to write equals. So in my example, I multiply by 2, and then I add 1. And then I'm going to square root the whole thing. So since I have that, I actually am going to start out and I'm going to put a square root in here because everything needs to go inside my square root since it's the last thing I do. So when you insert an equation, you get these different operators. So the one we want, these math operations, if you wanted a fraction, there's a fraction. If you wanted a square root, it's a square root. I want the square root. So inside here, I want 2x, and then I'm going to add 1. And then I square root that whole thing. And right here, really, I've got parentheses around that inside because that's sort of implied when I do the square root. So mathematically, what I'm doing is I'm multiplying by 2, I'm adding 1, and then I'm square rooting. So now I can start plugging in numbers. So if I start with -1, let's start with -2, like I did with my other one. So f of -2. And I can copy and paste this if I'd like, and actually maybe that's what I'll do. I'll copy and paste, because basically I'm going to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To copy and paste, Control or Command C will copy, and then Control V or Command V will paste. And basically my first input, I'm going to try plugging in -2. And what happens? So if I place this with -2, right, and I'll put in parentheses, I then get this. And on this side, what that really means is here, this would be -4, and inside I would get -3. Now, what's strange about this is that a square root, I can never have any two numbers that multiply, two numbers that's the same thing that multiplies by itself will equal a negative number. It's not really possible. So I'm going to say that this is not possible. Right? When we're working in that activity on Desmos, it said error. I think -1 is going to be the same thing. I'm going to do not possible, so I'm going to plug in a 0. So what happens when I plug in 0? And when I plug in 0 here, what will I get? Oops. And here I will have the square root of just 1, which equals 1. So, and then I can continue on. I might try to pick numbers that are easy. Like I know perfect square. 1 is a perfect square, 4 is a perfect square, but I'm not going to add 1. I might, if I put 4 in here, I know that what's going to happen when I plug in 4 is I'm going to get 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. So that I might want to do this so that when I arrange this, I get numbers that come out nice. If you want to have your calculator or phone handy and have numbers that come out to a decimal, that's fine also. All right, hope this helped, and good luck. Continue your project.